Welcome everyone to our Business Women Australia online masterclass today. We've got the wonderful Bev Andrews, who is going to guide us into change mastery in terms of really elevating and understanding our leadership and how we can navigate the melting pot of multiple challenges that we're all facing in our roles. And we've got a really interesting and varied group of wonderful, talented women with us today. So thank you for coming online. Before I hand over to Bev for the masterclass, I'd just like to welcome everyone. I'm the National Director of Business Women Australia, and I'd like to acknowledge the country in which we are all coming in. So as a national collective, we've got women from all around this incredible place we call home. I'm on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to Indigenous elders, past, present, and emerging, and really celebrate the amazing women from Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander background who are doing incredible things in the business community. We love supporting our sisters in business. If you're interested in Business Women Australia and you want to check in with me, I'm on LinkedIn. Also happy to hear from anyone, lynn@businesswomenaustralia.com.au. Spending more time actually helping LJ. We've grown to a point where it really warrants a bit more of my involvement now this year too. So really excited to be spending more time helping develop the programs and meet the needs of our growing membership base. We've got, I think, 20 to 30,000 women following and subscribing to us across all our different channels. We've got over 10,000 women in Australia subscribe to our e-news. We're just growing by about 15 to 20% a year, just in terms of people wanting to connect and contribute. So we are really hitting the ground running. You know, they talk about an overnight success story. We were founded in 2015. People don't realize we've been around that long, but certainly in the last, I think since COVID, we've really been able to connect with women across these digital platforms, which has been a game changer. So part of our dream is really around co-creation, and all our stuff is co-designed with our leading members. So we've got leaders within our community, and they really help shape the content. It's all focused on fostering success and personal growth, particularly around the female leadership piece. So we bring women from all sectors, industries, states. We've got active memberships across the nation, in Melbourne, in Sydney, in Brisbane. We have a cohort that are following us and keen to get established more in Tasmania and Adelaide, and of course in Western Australia, where I'm located as well. I'd love to see some Northern Territory and ACT women get more involved. I'm heading to Canberra soon, so looking forward to meeting women over there who have expressed an interest. So it's not just business owners. Some people think Business Women Australia, you have to own a business. We certainly have our fair share of business owners, but we've also got a lot of very talented executives and professional women. We've got board directors and women in all levels of business. Emerging leaders and students are also very welcome to come and participate, because the magic really is in that mix, that melting pot of diverse experiences and different thinking. With obviously our focus on professional development, we have a really strong part of our themes throughout our topics and discussions, and our masterclasses are around leadership and the evolving nature of leadership and the importance of the feminine aspects of leadership, which we obviously celebrate. The business improvement aspects is obviously very key to business success and growth. And of course, the personal growth aspects, you know, leading self is a really important part of what we're about as champions of change. So, you know, it's really great when we get incredible leaders like Bev Andrews stepping up and sharing their knowledge and expertise around these sorts of insights that they have. The values that we share are really what makes, I think, Business Women Australia very special. People say it doesn't matter if you come to an event in Brisbane or you come to an event, you know, in Perth. It's this incredible welcome, warmth, and humility, where we're sort of very talented and exceptional women, but we also are making mistakes, and we're prepared to share what our lessons are learnt. We have a good old laugh. If it's not fun, in my view, we don't do it. And we have this beautiful positive energy that that we want to be the masters of our own destiny. We believe women actually don't need fixing, but we really are powerful at fixing what needs to be improved. So these are some of the member benefits that we have. If you are interested in joining, now is a great time. We will be doing CPI increases very soon. So if you're keen to jump in as a Classic Connector member at $299, which is an absolute bargain for a year's membership, please jump in and do that this week. If you are interested in becoming a leader and helping us co-design the program, and you can be profiled on our podcast. We put a lot of effort into designing and connecting you with your right audience and your target market. We'd love you to consider coming in as a leader of the community. There are loads of benefits. If you are a company that's wanting to partner or sponsor with us, we have some great packages that start at $10,000 right up to $200,000 per annum for programs that we can deliver internally within corporate organisations. So very happy to talk about those opportunities. Our DiscFlow accreditation is back up, and also the dates are on the website, and also our Cert 4 in coaching that we do in conjunction with our partners at FireUp. Kathy McKenzie is one of our leading members. And I think the next Cert 4 in business and personal business mentoring and personal coaching is on the 12th of March. That's an ICF accredited pathway. I've done that one. I've done her diploma as well. So I can highly recommend it. If you're interested and want to know more, reach out to me. Very happy to share with you my experiences in doing that. We've got loads already into the calendar. How good are we, Leanne? I mean, this is the first week of February, and we've got February and March events already packed in. There's some fantastic in-person events, Perth Chats, Cheese and Wine using Grace as a weapon with the wonderful Vita Carlino. That's pretty much booked out now, I think. But if you're interested in those kinds of intimate small group conversations, they really are a game changer. They're extraordinary experiences. They're in Inglewood in Perth. Book in for the next one. They're all in the calendar now, so go ahead and book your spot ahead of time if you don't want to miss out on those. They're very popular. On the 13th of February, we've got another online workshop. This is for members only. People are sort of starting to host events all around the nation, so we really want to do a workshop on our cultural DNA blueprint and how we actually achieve those beautiful ways of connection, because it is with intention and there is a framework in how we do things. So our members and our hosts and our sponsors and anyone who's keen to be a part of that program running an event, please reach out and we'll get you into that workshop with me and Vita Carlino, who's been an absolute champion at helping us design our culture. The podcast on the 16th of February was with Ellie Baslili, the fabulous Leanne Jeffrey, who's our BWA coordinator, who's on this call, is going to be interviewing her around running your business and don't let it run you. And on the 21st of February, another masterclass with the wonderful Kerry Nobes, who's a Melbourne-based leader, and hers is on that building psychologically safe work environments. And I'm sure there's going to be a discussion around not just being psychologically safe, but creating brave work environments along the lines of Brené Brown's work. So that's going to be an excellent roundtable masterclass. If you're an expert in this area, we'd love you to join that conversation as well, because we love the perspectives of others, and it's a great chance for you to meet fellow professionals in the area. 29th of February, we've got a Perth summer long table dinner at the small bar, the Cabin in Mount Hawthorn. Joe Bradbury's 3 Drops Wine will be featured with a fantastic menu that chef is designing to be a taste extravaganza there. So book in for that. It's already been snapped up early. And on the 9th of March in Melbourne, I'm actually going to be in Melbourne on a road trip, and I happen to be there over for the long weekend. So I will be joining Conversations and Connections. Some of our local members have organised it at a vineyard, so I'm not complaining about that one. It's on the Saturday. And on the 20th of March in Canberra, I'll be at the Hyatt, and I'll be in the Howard's Lounge and facilitating a leadership roundtable with some leading women across government, industry, corporate and small business. So that's going to be an incredible leadership roundtable around how we actually forge further pathways for emerging female leaders. We've made it. How can we make it the pathway smoother for our up and coming women? And on the 20th of March in Sydney, we have just secured fantastic Black Nova, their venture capital company. Joe Robin is a leader who's joined or in the process of joining this week, and we'll be having an innovation panel with lessons learned from venture capitalists on the 20th of March. So look at that. What an incredible lineup, Leanne. We're ready for a holiday, right? Please reach out to Leanne. She's just a breath of fresh air in Business Women Australia. She's on this call. If you've got ideas, if you've got questions, please reach out to her. And if you're active across socials, certainly LinkedIn is our favourite place to play. We have a group in there. There's, I think, over 8,000 Australian-based women in that group. It's free to join the group while you're thinking about actually coming on board as a financial member. But once you become a classic connector or a leader in our group, you can post in that group and it goes out to all those amazing women. So that's a great way if you've got workshops, or if you want to ask questions or run polls or share articles or debate, conversation, or just posts. It's a great place to play. We also have a company page on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on X. We're on Instagram or Meta. So now here we are. Thank you for that. I have went a little bit longer than I should have. I have hopefully not bitten in too much of the masterclass, because that's why we're here. And we really are fortunate to have Bev, because she's one of the most highly respected leaders we have in our community. She's established Aspire Change Management, and she'll tell you a little bit more about her focus areas and what she brings to the table there. But what I'm really excited is she's going to really be exposing us in this masterclass to what she calls participative leadership, and that really appeals, I know, to all of us here on the call. It's a great foundational starting point to really build and improve our leadership styles and developing that growth mindset. I think she's going to share with us some of the neuroscience and the theory behind all this type of thinking. And this is such a good time of the year for us to be taking this time out. So well done, ladies, for taking this time out to be here with us. She's obviously comes from an academic, and theoretical background. But what I love about Bev is her ability to take, the latest in best practices and research, but applying it within an organisation. So her passion for change and building change capability inside organisations is infectious. So I'm really excited, Bev, to have you on. I know you are the inaugural president of the Perth-based Association of Change Management Professionals, that chapter in the Asia Pacific region. Mm-hmm. And are you still currently completing your Certified Change Management Professionals accreditation, or have you finished that?
Oh, all I've got to do really is actually submit it and sit the exam. Not that I'm frightened of exams, but I just haven't got myself quite to the cliff edge yet.
Yeah, I was thinking, I wonder if that's actually done and dusted. But absolutely, this is what I love about you. I mean, you're a leader in the space, and you're still so committed to lifelong learning. And I think, you and I share that. People look at me and think, I'm in my mid-50s. Surely I've learned enough now. But I just love learning everything new, and things are changing all the time. So over to you, Bev. What are you going to do with us today?
All right. So first off, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully not make a fool of myself.
While you do that, everybody say hello in the chat box if you can. Just say who you are and where you're from, and we can get an idea in the chat box who you are. We've got some interaction coming on today as well, so there will be a chance for some online networking as well. We always love that.
All right, just bear with me. Now, of course, my challenge is, right, so I've got to share my screen, but then I've got to put it on,
Okay, Jess, no worries. She's in an open office, so a bit restricted in speaking. That's fine. We can work with that.
Sorry, ladies. I'm just needing to share my screen, obviously. So here it is. And then I need to put it onto...
If you go to your slideshow button up the top there, it'll work within the screen, within doing it here too. Go up to the,
where do I need to go?
if you right at the very top of your slideshow, you've got slideshow. There's home, insert, draw, design, transition. Yeah, there we go. And then from the beginning, right there we go. Perfect.
Right. Beautiful. Sorry, ladies. Technology always gets me, no matter how much I thought I'm planned. So thank you for those lovely words, Lynn. I really appreciate them. And the joy I've got from the ACMP Association, being the founding chapter here in Perth. I'm actually not the president any further. Last year, I worked with Louise Tully and Peter, her husband, and a couple of other dedicated souls from the East Coast, and that's now become the Asia Pacific. So it's actually the Australian and New Zealand chapter over here in Australia. And so it's I stepped away because I just don't have the time to dedicate to it. So, but there you go. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time and just share some of the latest information, the research that's coming through around how do we accelerate our leadership. And I'm going to use the participative leadership element as our foundational stone. So hopefully you may have seen it in some of the other things that I've worked on, but it just sort of sets the scene for us. I'm going to take us through a bit more around the growth mindset and the latest thinking from Dr. Eastman, who presented last year at a conference. So I'll give you a little bit more information about him and the future of leadership and some of the elements that we sort of think about but don't really necessarily prioritize. And this is where I think that acceleration comes from, and it leads naturally into the growth mindset. And growth mindset is really about lifelong learning, which Lynn's already introduced us into. And we probably do it most of the time without consciously doing it. And that links us then into the neurosciences and some of the information that we're starting to gather from our brain and how we actually can work with how our brain is wired to accelerate some of our positive energies, and how do we actually sort of hack into that natural response that we have, which is protection and manage threats. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. And I'm going to just put a disclaimer there. I haven't gone through my formal accreditation. I'm working through the development of it, and I'm booked in to do my accreditation examination early March. So everything that I'm giving you is my untrained view from my early reading and the couple of sessions that I've had with their leading facilitator and the designer of the program. And I'm only going to skim across the surface because I have no desire to set you up with incorrect information due to my lack of formal understanding. So that's my little disclaimer at the front there. So let's get going. This is just one slide. You don't need to read it. You can go onto my website and you can see it there. When I think of change and change management, there are so many elements and so many lenses and dimensions when you think of change. And everything that Lynn talked about at the beginning of our session is all elements of change. Everything that we do, every decision that we make, every conversation that we have, we can influence people for a different outcome, whether it be through an organizational approach, our teams, individuals, our families, our friends, even our pets. Changing a dog's behavior is still change. Okay, so and there's techniques that we use with pet training, for example, that are similar techniques that we use when we're actually trying to give our young children guidelines and support and nurturing their early curiosity. I don't go down that path, but obviously. So what I focus on is three areas. So first off, I do some advisory services, and that's really about ensuring that organizations or business functions, projects within corporate world and smaller businesses get a good experience with change. All right, so it is around how do you pragmatically support people to adopt something new. To do that, then you need to actually have some training and learning element to that. So I obviously have my training arm, and I have aligned myself very much to the APMG accreditation. The ACMP one, you can use any formal training to achieve your ACMP accreditation, and the same if you're using Change Management Institute. They're two different organisations with different focuses, but the same outcome is around improving the change management experience and the change experience. So I organise bespoke training, in-house training, and public training. And then the last part is very much around that professional development. Now, I'm not a coach, and I never make out to be a coach. You'll never see that. You'll never see that I talk about coaching. I talk about mentoring. And that's around being able to provide experiences and support people from a mentoring perspective and shared learning. So I'll cover that off as well as we go through today, because it comes up as part of that ongoing lifelong learning. All right, so this is what we're focusing on when we're talking about leadership today. It's that we encourage leadership development and we openly develop ourselves. So I can recall a time a few years ago where I started in an organisation as one of their senior managers. I was the very first senior manager that they had brought in externally to the organisation, because it was a very technically based environment. It's wealth management, superannuation, pensions, so very, very technical, very regulated, very complex products. So they developed all their managers in-house, and you can imagine what was happening was that because they were technically very experienced, they didn't necessarily have the leadership element developed as well. And when I came on board, I was the first one. It was about 4 or 6 weeks later that they actually had introduced this new leadership program, and I was asked to attend because it was a pilot, but also with an outsider's lens. And one of the things that I did without training, and I'm still building my rapport with my team. If you think 6 weeks, I've only been there. Who is this person? She's got no background. What's her credibility? Can we trust her? And so one of the first things that I did when going off to this leadership training, which went for 3 days, was to bring it back to my team and shared with my team that you don't even know me, but I'm actually going to be practicing some new things. And I'm going to tell you that I'm practicing something new. So I'd like you to give me the feedback on that. Did it sit with you? Did I give any confidence to what I was practicing? And how could they learn from what I'm learning as well? And at the time, I didn't realize that was actually considered to be a good practice leadership skill. Right? But here we are. It's something that you have to focus on for yourselves, but let people know. All right, that's all part of building confidence, credibility, your vulnerability. And I think there's only once in my slide pack that I talk about being authentic. To me, that is a natural outcome if a lot of these things you just do innately. And I'm going to cover that off as part of Dr. Eason's research. Okay, so we're going to talk about how we develop ourselves. This is a little bit around what we're going to focus on. So Dr. Eastman talks about the new leadership challenge. And with growing a growth mindset, it's all about building resiliency. And you'll see how that then links into the neuroscience of change. Right, so I'm going to show you how it all links together. I want to do some practical things with you. And when I was going through everything, I was trying to work out the best way to do some activities. Always harder when it's online, and also making sure you have the time for it. So a lot of the things that I'm going to share with you, I'm going to suggest that you make a note and think about how you might want to build that into your own development process. And then at the end of the session here, if you're interested in getting any particular worksheets or any further information, I'll just get you to email me direct. Obviously, the PowerPoint presentation will be made available to everybody. But if you want a little bit more information, then please feel free that you can tap in and I'll share what I have. And if I don't have something, I'll either try to create it or let you know that I haven't gone down that stage. So let's talk about what we mean about participative leadership and the ABC of management. So I'm not going to see all your hands pop up, but Leanne might be able to see if you put your hands up in the chat or if you make any comments. Anyone worked in an organisation previously or even today where it's all around rules of conduct, command and control, hierarchical leadership, do as I say, not necessarily as I do? Is there many hands going up, Leanne? I can see some smiles. I can see you there, Mira and Natalie, a bit of a smile, heads nodding. All right. Is that
few people nodding. We've all, I think a few of us been there.
Yeah. Certainly when I joined the workplace, which is more decades than I want you to be able to count, very much, a rule of conduct. The manager didn't quite come into the office dressed as the diagram there, but pretty close. And when I first started, you addressed your manager with the term Mr. Right? And there certainly wasn't any Mrs. All right, it was Mr. Now, command and control, there are particular services that need command and control. So if you think of the military, you think of our fire and emergency services, you think of our police functions, there's a certain place for command and control leadership. Okay, so I'm not saying that just because it's old, we don't need it. It's the relevance to the industry, the environment, to the work that you're doing as to how much of that command and control is making the leadership effective for the organization, right? But in the beginning, that's all that we knew. Then we had the glass ceiling and we had some very courageous women try to break through it. And they're represented with their big hair and shoulder pads. I still got the big hair, but there's not a great deal I can do with it because even if I chop it, it's still big hair. Definitely, I don't have to wear the shoulder pads anymore. But these women, they were very courageous because they had to work twice as hard to be considered half as good to get a seat at the table. And the hardest thing for the women going through in the 80s and the 90s was how to keep that feminine side of themselves and to bring themselves into the workplace to not be seen as weak, to be seen as a strong leader, to get the credibility, but still be tough because they were leaning into tough conversations day in, day out. Now, this is the 80s and 90s, so I'm going to ask you again in your chat, if you want to put your hand up, do you still see a lot of this having to break through the glass ceiling? Sort of makes you wonder how far we've progressed, doesn't it? And now we're starting to move into what we're calling this participative leadership, where it's all about thriving and not surviving. And work's not all snowdrops and fun. Work can often be quite hard, and it's not unusual for us to hop in the lift at the end of a day if you go into the office, or when you're talking to friends and family and distressing at the end of the day, to use language like when they say, how was your day? And you go, I survived. It's not unusual for us to say that, and it's actually okay to say that we survived. It's when we are in survival mode that it's not okay, right? But very much the expectations in our workplace now is that we are providing an environment where individuals can thrive. We as leaders need to be able to feel that we are thriving, that we are growing, that we're stretching, that we're enjoying the work, we're giving back of ourselves to the people around us. And when we talk about leadership, we're not talking about that you're the leader of a team or we're just talking about individual leadership here. As an individual thriving, the people around you having the opportunity to thrive as well. Diversity in our leadership is key for that. So, the last few years, there has definitely been a very strong focus coming out of the people and culture and HR teams around inclusivity and diversity. Sad that we have to sort of keep reminding people about this, and diversity is not just about, you know, colour, race, gender. Culture diversity gives us so much richness in our thinking and our growth and ability to grow. But the other thing, of course, is the diversity of the generations that we now have in our workplaces. So we have 5 generations, and there's talk of over the next 3, 5, 10 years, we'll end up with 6 generations, as the older generation would normally be retiring, you know, at 65 and moving on. There's a lot more of that purpose to remain in the workplace. Sometimes that's financial purpose. Sometimes that is the purpose of, I feel young at heart still. I still have plenty to give. And that creates lots of opportunities for us, but it also creates a few challenges. So we'll talk about a little bit about that as we move through. So I'm not going to talk too much around the participative leadership. This is just an extract here from the International Women's Forum. It's a survey of men and women. I shared this at the end of the year with the Project Management Institute's forum in November, which project managers is still traditionally quite a strong male stronghold in there. So my audience was probably 60% male, maybe even more. And so the question came up is like, oh, so, you know, so was this sort of like 80% of women in the survey and only 20% of men? Or did women actually say that this is what men, just how men describe them? And I'm not privy to the details of the research document. I'm sure it's available if I searched hard enough. But I know the extract of it was that it was a fairly balanced approach in the way that they did the research. And it did get me to think about like, oh, have we just put a mirror in front of you, and from your project management perspective, you're still sort of old school command and control as you manage a project. Okay, so please don't take it out of context. And obviously there are times, I know that there are times when I certainly have to take on formal authority, positional power. Sometimes you have to use it, right? But I'd like to think that I work much more in an interactive leadership style, right? So it's just there, just a way of showing it. There is that, I do have a little bit more information on that in the paper. So if you'd like to see that, I'll get the link loaded up or make that available for you. So now I'm going to just move into some of the factors that Dr. Simon Esman talked about. Now, Dr. Simon is what they call a cheap futurist. He works very much in an academic, so I'm not an academic, Lynn, but I'm interested in academia, but he definitely is an academic. He works in looking at future skills. He's very much, his background, I'm trying to think, I think it was the IBM, something like that, that he's worked for a while. His interest and passion is very much around the future sustainability of food and the environment for food. And the spin-off for that, when you think about it in more of the corporate world, because he's actually on the Deakin University's council board, from an academic perspective, is actually we need to change the way that we behave to make our world sustainable. And for us to change the way that we think and feel about a sustainable world means that we've got to learn some different things. We've got to approach the environment and what we do to be more connected with it. And this headset we have on of looking down at our feet and a lot of the technical elements that we do, those robotic elements, and he doesn't talk about AI as being part of that challenge, but that's my view of it, that we're going down this technical path. We'll be quite robotic in a lot of things that we're doing, and we're relying on AI and the value of what that can bring us, which is fantastic. But we need to make sure that as people and leaders, that is where we really have this difference. So he talks about the future focus for leaders. And here's the 3 elements that he talks about. I don't think there's anything in there that you probably haven't seen at all. And here's 3 key topics there. And the key 3 things that you can take away for yourself is around stepping up. So I'm going to talk to you about the competency about how as a leader do you step up, which is around being courageous. Your energy for others. So when we talk about neuroscience, we talk about energy and threat. The ability to connect and stabilize. This is a really critical skill in a world that just feels like it's constantly moving and changing. And, you know, Lynn's mentioned it already. I've spoken to a few people just in the last few days, and I've heard it certainly over the last few weeks around. Normally we sort of roll a little bit into, you know, to the back end of February. We get to mid-December, and we're rolling into like focusing on Christmas. And we know that we have a week, maybe 2 weeks from Christmas where we sort of can take a deep breath and we don't really think about work. We hang out with our family and friends. We enjoy our summer. And then we start to sort of mosey into January. We get to Australia Day long weekend. That's usually the signal of like, okay, folks, summer holidays is really sort of over now. The kids have got to go back to school. You've got to sort of get re-engaged and refocus into work. And then you hit the ground running, and you start moving into February, and you're planning the business goals and starting to get a bit busier. Well, I don't know about you, but I certainly felt like I was tripping over the last working days in December before Christmas hit. I had a business meeting in the first morning, the day after Boxing Day. That moved into the first week of January, and I feel like I have been slowly catching up and further. Feels like the cruise ship is way in the distance, and I'm paddling madly to try to get back onto it. Change is happening constantly, and there's no sort of like downtime, slow time for us. So how we can stay connected and stabilized, staying calm for people when things feel frantic is definitely something that's really important to ourselves for our health, but also is a valuable asset for when we lead others. And that leads into being grounded. You know, I can give you many examples of when I go into organizations, and whatever change I'm talking to them for, I always ask about what are the strategic goals, what's the strategic vision. It's important to understand what we're working on and how it connects back up, and to give a sense of what else is on the plate in an organization, what other things are going on. And our senior leaders talk about, oh, we've only got these 3 strategic initiatives, or these 5, these are our master ones. We have a +1. One organization had a +1, which was their transformational program, their digital transformation program, which I thought was interesting to call it a +1 because it should have been the sole focus for the organization. But hey, when you unpacked that one, they had 70 changes that they were putting through that they could articulate, but they were all wrapped up hidden underneath stuff. So taking information, staying grounded in it, remaining calm, having those communications, trying to help people, try to prioritize stuff that's coming over their desks. Everything seems to be critical and urgent. All right. So what is important? What do we need to do? What do we need to get off our plate today because it is a bushfire? What's looking like it's going to spark into a bushfire? Where can we put some bushfire controls around something else so that if it does flare up, it doesn't go out of control, and still go home calm? So this is the sort of information that he started to work on and that he leads into. And then I wanted to take us through and spend a little bit of time here. Now, Leanne, I know we've got a checkpoint. Can you give me a checkpoint when I'm about 30 minutes into my conversation? Because I do sort of like to deep dive and put some reality around things for you, and I might get a little bit stuck in an area. So Dr. Eastman talks about these 6 competencies. Now, in the paper that, well, it's not really a paper, it's a PDF document I've got. I'm more than happy to share it with you. He has a lens of, you're looking at it through an educational lens, and his lens is CEO lens. Now, when I read it, I thought, actually, education is learning. That's the language we talk about from leadership. And leadership for us is anybody, not a CEO. And this is relevant no matter what. So that's the lens. So in his paper, that's what he talks about. That's how he presented it at the Australian Council of Professions. But I've put this other broader, more relevant lens for us, but it doesn't diminish the work that he's done. So he talks about what we have, these dispositional eulogy virtuals. And what he means there, and this is compassion, commitment, and courage. What he means there is not that you'll hear it, because your eulogy is obviously when someone's passed away, right? So you can only think about it in the eulogies that you go to. But if you were to actually think about, how do I want to be remembered? You know, there's that saying about, you know, on your deathbed, you're not going to go, oh, I wish I'd spent more time in the office. You're going to, you know, hopefully have no regrets on how you've spent your life. How do you want people to think about you? How do they want to remember you? Now, if we put that into a business sense, as a leader, we all move on. What are the attributes that you display and demonstrate consistently that people go, you're a role model for me because you display these leadership qualities that I really want to take with me? So it's a eulogy of your virtues in your business world. What are you known for? How do you describe yourself? If someone was doing a reference for you and the question to them was, what are the 3 words you would use to describe Bev Andrews? What would come to mind? And so that's what he talks about when he says these are the 3 dispositional eulogy virtues that we should be talking more about. We should be demonstrating more about. This is who we are, intrinsically the person we are. The other 3 are what he calls our technical resume virtues. These are the things that we talk about that make us successful in the workplace. Our collaboration, our competency, and our confidence. And quite often, this is what we value. In an organization, this is what we value. What makes us truly great, authentic leaders, there's that word, and the future of our leadership is the things that we actually are going to be known for. Okay, so I'm going to take you through these, okay? So first off, and if you disagree, please put your hand up. If you've got anything that you want to share, please put your hand up, and Leanne can take you off mute, and we can ask questions away. Okay, so the first one I put on there is competence. Now, this is about developing and maintaining a change mindset. This is what he's referring to in competence. It's not that you can competently complete your business P&L. It's not that you can competently do something technical on, you know, those competencies. Yes, they're important. They're job competencies. He's talking here about your mindset. He's talking about that agility to be able to respond, proactively manage the pace of the change, act decisively in times of uncertainty. And this is really hard. This is why it's very important that he's put it up here for your CEOs, because they really don't know what's coming at them and at the pace of what's coming at them. And then they can't get up there and go, oh, I really don't know. And I had a conversation with a GM today that on Tuesday I'm working on. He wants to do some changes within his business unit. It's a very ambiguous time that he's wanting to do it, right? One of the reasons that it's ambiguous is we're putting in a brand new system, which is the engine room of everything that they do in this function. And it is a business unit that has not adopted change. It still works very much in a command and control environment. He's taking a leap of faith in that I believe this is what's actually going to make us work more effectively and improve our leadership and collaboration. But it's an uncertain time. There's a lot of other things that are happening at the time. He's dealing with this environment that they don't like change and they don't like swift change. And one of the things that he said on Tuesday when we were going through the plan and the work that had to be done and how they were going to actually roll this out was, we need to have a backup plan. And I said to him, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you know, if this isn't really hitting the mark, we need to have a backup plan. And I said to him, please don't tell me your backup plan is to roll it out, roll it back. I said, that's not your backup plan. You can't do that. If you don't have confidence in what you're doing, if you don't have little triggers and flags that tell us, well, maybe we're a mile off the mark, what do we need to do to sort of bring this back in? Because we're thinking about 130 people potentially going, you've changed my world. I can't do this. I can't do this. And the business unit completely grind to a halt. So you have to be decisive in your in that uncertainty, but you also have to stick the path. I'll show you that in the commitment element, right? So he talks about here under mindset, lifelong learning, meaningful and purposeful development for employees. How many organizations do you have on here, just your hands up, that have dedicated learning and development functions? Right, so there's a few. How many of them, of those L&D functions, how much time and energy is spent on leadership qualities for people, internal development, not technical development to do your job, not training to maintain compliance, not training on, this is how we're going to be diverse and inclusive. How many hands are left where you actually talk about developing your individuals and your managers and leaders? I can see Natalie, sort of, yes. Vera, sort of, yes. Yes, I know the organization you're in. Yes, I can certainly see the link there. Were there many hands put down, Leanne?
Not many hands went up.
Not many went up. Okay, well, that even tells us a bigger story, because that doesn't surprise me either. Does not surprise me either. I can't tell you the last time I've gone into an organization where they haven't spent my first day doing 8 hours worth of online learning, and where I haven't had the opportunity to actually speak to someone who sets me up with what the values and talks to me about the values and the purpose of the organization. We don't do that anymore, all right, let alone anything else. All right, so he talks about that as our first technical leadership competence. Here's confidence. Now here he's talking about the fact that we need to build these fluid and adaptive skills, which is actually what I was just referring to. So we're very good at building job descriptions and trying to define, you must do this, you're responsible for that, you're going to be engaged in here, you're accountable for these things, right? But what are those fluid skills that people take with them, right? When I'm out there looking for resources, whether it's for business that I'm doing for clients, or whether it's within working for a client and they're asking for advice on to bring resources in, the technical element of change is one component that I look for when I'm going across people's CVs and their cover letters. And if you don't do a cover letter, please, you're really letting yourself write down. And I'm looking for those fluid skills, because I can teach you and you can learn a lot of these technical things. Okay, you can do some formal learning, you can get some mentoring and coaching, and you can learn on the job. Okay, but if you've got these fluid skills, this curiosity, this desire to learn, the ability to communicate, understanding what collaboration is, building those relationships, making sure that everything that you do leads to an outcome that is a better outcome for others. They're the skills that you want, not the fact that I'm really good with my spreadsheets, and I don't use spreadsheets anymore because I self-taught myself how to do Power BI. Power BI is nothing if you actually don't know how to actually take that data and have really good decision-making conversations from it. So he talks about the fact that we need to have more fluid organizations, or use people on our resource, which is our biggest asset, to make them fluid so that they can move around an organization, which enables retention, career development for people. You're building anchoring engagement because people are getting that variety of work. They're starting to feel extremely valued because they can see that I'm part of the organization. I don't have to be a role within the hierarchy. I'm part of this organization. And then obviously the potential of the contribution our millennials and our Gen Y employees can share with us, right? They definitely look at the world in a different lens. Now, sometimes I look through that lens and I go, oh my goodness, am I really seeing that? You know, and other times I go, wow, I would never have looked at it like that. Right. So, you know, different opinions, different ideas, different positions from which they're coming from are not right or wrong. They are just different. And that's what inclusivity is. So our differences are so powerful. Right. So, and I can remember years ago, I was involved with this was actually the organization that brought me in as a non-technical manager. I was asked to be an active participant when the HR director was pulling together a 5-year people strategy, and she had different members of the organization, and she actually brought in what were considered then, they must have been the Gen Ys, I guess, into the workshop. It was a 2-day workshop, and she had set areas within the agenda where it was all about unpicking what their expectations were, right? And a lot of them were not command and control. A lot of them were things that, as a woman breaking through the glass ceiling, you'd sort of come across, but they were the beginning of all of the collaboration, the coming together in self-organized teams, the way that we take the working environment now for a lot more for granted. That's what they were talking about. And their insights were confronting, but also so powerful as the strategy formed. So, something I didn't know what I was learning then, but I learned it. Then we've got collaboration and competition. So we talk about collaboration a lot. It's one of the things that we put, like authentic leadership, in the first or second line of job descriptions, of introductions from people when they're talking about the work that we do. People say that they want to collaborate, they like to co-design. There's all these CO words, okay? But what does collaboration mean? Because it actually means you need to be able to build networks. You need to work out how to work together, and you still need to be achieving the same goal. You're working to a common purpose. Now, there's the same question there. How do we get people to collaborate more, but remove being competitive? How do we get the egos out of the room? How do we get that agenda of, I really believe it needs to be done this way, so I'm collaborating so I get my own way. I'm collaborating so my team or my business function gets something out of this, that we could move this product, this service, whatever it is, into my team. It gives me a bigger team. It grows my stature, my influence. How do we remove that out of collaboration to actually achieve collaboration? And that's what he's saying there. And that is a tension that you will find all the time in your organizations. And then when you've got organizations that have some very defining different goals, it starts to be a tension of tug and war. And for there, I'm thinking of organizations where you might have an area that is responsible for growth and bringing revenue into an organization. And the behaviors and collaboration for that are going to look very different to the behaviors for parts of the organization that are seen as a cost center, because they're behind the scenes, they're supporting in a customer service type of element, or they're making sure that, risk is managed, projects are completed, those types of things where they actually are spending the organization's money, they're not bringing it in. And so when you start looking at how do you do more with less, and you're looking at your resources, there is a bent to put resources in where we can grow the business, and not a bent to put resources in where we can actually get some of those efficiencies, or we can work smarter. Right? So that's where you might see some of the competition versus collaboration. So I'm just going to pause there. I'm going to see if anyone's got any comments they'd like to add, questions they'd like to ask, anything like that.
Yeah, I just was interested in, this how competitive kind of views, even within organizations, actually does really get in the way of true collaboration. And what your thoughts are, or how have you actually combated that? How have you created and broken down those competitive kind of barriers?
It's hard work. I've got a situation at the moment that's formed that way. It's not anything that I've been in control of, but there's a Corpex team that have not had the time to develop the trust with each other. And so when they come together, they've been led to operate in silos. And so therefore, whenever they're making decisions with their corporate hats on, they're all making decision based on what's in it for me. What I saw in that organisation is when they did their annual engagement survey about 15 months ago, it came out loud and clear. The top 4 questions that rolled up to give the high-level engagement score, 3 out of 4 of them talked about the purpose and vision of the organisation, the strategic leadership by Corpex, the level of collaboration that they see from their senior leaders, and I can't remember the 4th one. They were 3 of the 4 of them were the highest, lowest responses. That makes sense, because it was really apparent to all of the people that worked in that organisation that you don't get on, and you're not looking after the organisation, you're looking after yourselves. And that then started a very slow journey for them to start, because it's published, and you've got, I think the other one might have been the trust in the feedback on the quality of the CEO leadership or visibility of the CEO, something like that. And they had to go back out to the organisation and sort of, a bit cap in hand, like, there's some home truths in here and we've got to work out what that means. For me, it's been working with that GM to sort of go like, you've got to actually be part of that as a team. All right. Because of the silos that have been allowed to fester in that organisation for a considerable amount of time, you've actually got to start working together to show and appreciate what each of those business functions are bringing to the table, and talk about those and the strengths that then gives the organisations, and then start looking at the work that when one team does some work, it's going to impact you. So get involved on the front foot, not the back foot. Start being more participative, start leaning in at the table. And the GM, he is quite a younger GM, and he doesn't like conflict and that type of stuff either. He, to a certain degree, he actually doesn't want to be part of a team in that way. He's quite happy to be, out there on his own. But there was enough things going on to sort of say, here's some examples of where this would really help us help them. The other thing, so that's just a live example I've got running at the moment, and it's slowly getting there. And it started off with little things like the Corpex team, that when they have their meetings, they need to rotate having them on different floors, not sitting up in the ivory tower, for example. Being visible, right? Just being a little bit more human.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you have got 30 minutes to go, but I've just noticed Mary put a great little comment in too, that they've attempted virtual lunches, team building games, as well as now having cadence of flying the teams into site every quarter. This is obviously with the hybrid work environment, there's all these challenges that we've got as well.
Yeah.
There's this constant theme coming in the chat box around the importance of building and enabling trust and building relationships between different teams. And that really helps break those silos. So thanks for all these great chats. Tony's put a great chat in there around it coming back to trust too, both within and across teams.
Yes.
So much just can't happen. And to be honest, if I come back from my background with working with business development marketing teams, we talk about know you, like you, trust you. You can't trust people unless you know them and like them. And by knowing them and liking them, doing things together and pumping up a little bit more money into the social club and giving them opportunities to then have social club representatives across each of the silos. I think is a really fun way of then empowering others to co-design internally. So I'm sure there's organisations doing that. We've certainly found that working very well in the professional services areas with the bigger, the law firms and the accounting firms that can get very happy in their technical silos because they're generally introverted people. So yeah, interesting. But you've got 30 minutes. Just
all right, I better keep going because I want to make sure I get the neuroscience stuff in. So these are the three dispositional skills. So I'm going to talk about these, but you'll be very familiar with them. So compassion, very much around very much around the world that we live in at the moment, and all the things that have happened even before COVID. I think COVID was a real wake-up call in lots of areas across the world. And then we've seen the different politics, the economics off the back end of that. They talk about the deterioration of public standards of truth, the amount of fake news, the amount of I'm almost myself at the point of I don't want to read any news, no matter which feed it comes in, because the heading of the news is nothing about the story of the news. There's all of the we've got a couple of wars on at the moment, which is quite terrifying, and then the individual element of the lack of that connection that people feel, and we've got loneliness, depression, drug use and all those types of things. So really being compassionate, that we have no idea what it is taking for people to get out of bed in the morning to front up for work. All right, so it's just being a compassionate leader. And then commitment, which is around when you find your purpose, once you've settled on this is what I want to do, you have to hang on to that. This is about, you can't wishy-washy around things. And the statement there about you can fall in love with something when it's all new and flashy and exciting, but commitment is when it really gets hard and tough. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. That's your commitment. All right. And then the third one that he talked about is courage. And I've seen this in a lot of values. And it's really about those courageous conversations. It's around just saying to yourself, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be proud of myself for doing it, even if I'm shaking through it the whole time and, I have sweaty palms. And if I don't stretch myself, I'm not going to grow because I'm not going to actually face into any of those fears. And these are the types of things that courageous leadership looks like. And putting a tick against, I can do that. Doing what you believe is right. Challenging others. Stand up under pressure. To accept that you're going to make those mistakes. Have courage to change the rules. Now this is a political statement. So, just in the last week, it's been playing out around the legislative tax changes. Now is that actually somebody breaking a promise, or is that someone having the courage to change the rules because the circumstances have changed? Making courageous decisions doesn't make you popular. All right? And I've been in many workshops where I know people are looking at me to say something because I'm the one who has the courage to speak up. And then people say to me afterwards, oh, I'm glad you raised that. I was thinking that too. And I always say to them, please feel that you can openly say something in our environment, because if you can't, we haven't built enough trust. But as a starting point, if I say something and you actually think it's the right thing, or it's a good thing, or it's something that you support, please say that too, because that builds your confidence to be courageous next time, right? But a lot of times being courageous is hard. It's difficult. You get no thanks for it. And usually it creates a little bit more work for you as well. All right. But it's really authentic. Here's some tips. I'm not going to go through these. I've reworded the tips that he had in the paper so they make more relevance for us. It's all about ongoing learning. Okay. And this is a little 70-20-10 that I can share with you outside of the session. It's around how do you actually build your development planning, thinking about what can I do formally, what can I do from my social network learning, and how can I actually learn on the job and through situations and case studies and things, and having an equal balance between that technical competence to do your job well and those dispositional competencies to be really genuine and be yourself. All right, so I'll share that outside of the masterclass. I'm going to skip through the growth mindset because we've talked a little bit about it. There's 4 things here to think about that you need. You need your purpose, which we've talked about. You need a reinforcement system. All right, so you're growing and stretching. Pat yourself on the back when you do stuff. When you think, right, I've done that really well. For me, when you've done something and it hasn't gone the way that you've wanted, that's a real learning opportunity. Pat yourself on the back and then say to yourself, right, glass of bubbles, I'm going to go and get my favorite chocolate. I'm going to go and have a massage, because it's reinforcement is great when you've done something well. It's easy to celebrate. Reinforcing something where it's been a massive learning for you, or you've received feedback that you've had to sort of swallow and digest. That's the learning, and that's where you really make your reinforcement celebration. Think about the skills required for change and look for your consistent role models. And my thing there for you is what your idea of a role model will be different to somebody else's in an organization. And so you need to find role models that are role modeling the values and the future focus, not necessarily role models that are completing the technical skill sets really well. Right? So keep that in mind when you think about role models. So this is resiliency. And this is about how growth and fixed mindsets work or don't work. We're focusing on growth mindsets, and the next couple of slides just talk about the difference between what a growth mindset looks like and what a fixed mindset looks like. And I've got for you there some reflection things that you can think about. What can I do more of? And what can I do when I start to think or feel these types of things? Okay, so I'll share that, and here's some tips. Okay. I really wanted to get into the neurosciences. So this is my disclaimer again. This is the stuff that I'm learning about. And when we talk about neuroscience, we're talking about the nervous system. It's the brain, the spinal cord, and all of our nerves. And all of that gives us this, all right? It's our ability to make decisions. It's our behaviors. It's how we're motivated. It's how we focus and our attention. It's our ability to perform. It's where our resilience comes from. It's this whole thing about brain bias, which I won't go into because I haven't learned enough about it. It's about learning. And it's that clinical perspective as well, which we're getting to know more and more, all right? But what the Neuroscience for Change talks about is the tangible data that is translated into practical tools, strategies, and frameworks that we can adopt in the workplace. We can adopt as individuals. All right, so here we go. The first thing, which was really interesting for me as someone coming from change management, because we all talk about resistance, we understand about resistance management, and there's some methodologies there that actually even get you to write up a resistance plan for the change. Now, I've never done that because I've always looked at the opposite, which is probably shows that I'm more of an optimist, that to me, resistance is about just not knowing about stuff and the awareness of it, and why as an individual I would want to adopt it. All right. So, but we are naturally wired. So this was a real learning for me. We are naturally wired to resist. And it's not that I didn't know that. It was just like, if you start with that thought in mind, then how do you actually move to the other elements? So if we're naturally wired to resist, then how do we actually overcome that? If you think about some of the recent engagements you've had with people when you've talked about change or talked about something that's happening, there's all the yes buts or not. And, we don't like change. We're creatures of habit. always have been. You know, I don't know if any of you catch public transport, but if you do, you probably catch the train at the same time at the same station. There's probably a carriage that you prefer. You probably like to sit on either the left-hand side or the right-hand side. You might like the seats that sit two in a row. You might like the ones that sit along so you can look out at the window, right? And you might even sometimes get on your carriage and go to sit at your seat and find that someone's beaten you to it. And how dare they? It's your seat. You always sit here, right? That's the sort of thing that we do. That's habitual behavior. But we don't like change. Why not? This is the concepts behind the neuroscience, right? Organizations are made of people, and change impacts people. We also know that organizations say our best asset, our biggest asset, is our people. A person's nervous system is their command center, right? So you think of our brain, our nerves, our spinal cord. That's our command center. This is our command and control. The combined nervous systems of all the people working in the organization is the command center of the organization. Change impacts that command center. And so our nervous system, our people, they are our main stakeholders. And that is why, okay? This is why neuroscience is so important for change, why people are so important for change, and why the more we start to understand this, maybe, just maybe, we can do some sort of hacks to minimize that initial resistance, to help people move from natural resistance into being more adaptable to change, which is something we've always been talking about. That's not new. So here we are. Here's our nervous system. It's been designed to keep our species going, and it's worked quite well for us. All right. Firstly, it protects us from threats. We have that fight or flight. Now, after all of the thousands of years that we've been around and the thousands of years that we've actually grown and developed and got more sophisticated command centers, its first reaction still remains fight or flight. All right, do I stay? Do I run? Secondly, it needs reward. Right? And there's some real tangible evidence on that. They both work together. What we want to do is manage the threat to increase the reward. We want us to get our brain into the reward mode faster and not stay in the threat mode for as long. Sounds like I know what I'm talking about. See, sometimes reading academic papers helps you go to sleep easy. Right, so this is the nervous system. Now, there's a lot more stuff about this, right? And I'm going to even get the wording wrong. So, please have a look. The central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. The early Egyptians didn't realize how important the brain was. They thought the command center was the heart. And the only reason that they embalmed the brain was because you needed everything in your body when you were going into your afterlife. But for a long time, they didn't realize that it was the brain that was really important. The heart is too, of course. Then you've got your nervous system. And your nervous system is where you get these sympathetic or parasympathetic responses. And as you can see, they're both threat and reward. And what we're talking about is the energy. In a threat environment, you have that adrenaline to fight or fly. If you think about, let's just put ourselves back in the caveman time, and all of a sudden we're confronted with a great big bear. Now the mind is going to go like, fuck it, it's going to eat me. I better run. Or you go, oh, great big bear, winter's coming up, lots of food, nice big thick fur rug. I'm going to fight it and hope I'm the winner, right? We still do that. It takes energy to do that either way. And that's why when we do something afterwards, we get that rush. The rush I'm talking about, it might be an excitement rush. It might be where you start to shake, your heart's palpitated, you're breathing really fast, you're starting to sweat. all of that type of stuff, right? Comes out of that. When we're in the threat mode, we release our adrenaline, which is the energy, our noradrenaline, which is we're hyper vigilant. Okay. Think of, I was just watching a show only last night. It was about these bears and these little cubs, and they were people watching them from way, way, way. And the bears and the mum and the cubs having a good time. And then all of a sudden, mum's hypervigilance jumped right in. The wind must have shifted just a fraction. She knew there was someone else there. Straight away, kids, come with me. We're going home, right? That hypervigilance. When you're in this threat mode, your senses are so much more attuned to the threat. You can't replicate that, but you can, if you've been in that environment, you've seen it, you feel it, you're more hyper, the noises, the color, the sounds, the smells, everything's more hyper aware for you. And you also get cortisol. It regulates that response to stress. Too much, not enough. Okay. As I say, I'm not going into the detail of that, but that's the reason that we'll learn more when I pass my accreditation. And then from the reward perspective, we get dopamine released, which is our energy and our motivation, right? That's the excitement. Endorphins, the pleasure and the pain relief. I used to run marathons. I don't know why. I'm back to being normal again, right? I thought I was normal, but I'm back to being normal. I used to run marathons. There's a lot of pain in running 42.2 kilometers, right? The pleasure is the sense of achievement and reward at the end. You have no idea how satisfying, rewarding it is when you finish and you've got someone there who puts this medal over your shoulders and goes, "You're amazing," right? That reward, those endorphins, you don't feel the pain for a while. When the adrenaline drops off, then you get the pain. And then you've got this oxytocin as well, which is where the bonding and the trust comes from. So you can see straight away, if you're in a workplace and you're feeling threatened, you're feeling that sense of, I don't know if I can trust people. I don't feel safe. You can see where the stress and anxiety is going to start to grow from. You can also see that you're going to have reduced energy. You're going to have a reduced sense of pleasure, enjoyment. You're going to see that ability to build relationships is going to be compromised, right? You can just see straight away the body is not putting you in a space where you can actually do these things that you want to do, because your body actually has recognized, because it's very hypervigilant. Don't let your guard down. Don't let your guard down. This is what it looks like. Oh, sorry. Let me just go back. This is what it looks like. So to get to peak performance, and this is not about sustainable high performance, it is hard to maintain high performance non-stop, right? We peak and flow. We go into fight and flight. We might freeze. With too much change, we might burn out. We might just find it is just too much for us, all right? Because we're in threat mode. And you can see here the types of behaviors that come out of people that are feeling quite anxious. If we can actually move ourselves more into the reward phase, you can see resilience. We build our resilience. It is the first thing that's going to help us move from a threat into reward. All right? Been here before. I know how to cope with this. I've got the confidence. It helps us to facilitate that change. We know the options we've got to us. Because our minds are opening, we can start being creative in our decision making. The sense of well-being is enhanced. We've got all these wonderful things now going through us. It can be addictive, right? That was a really great experience. I'm going to go and do that again. Okay, and you can see here all the behaviors. How do you do that?
To go, Bev. Just
5 minutes. All right, I'm going to do a quick wrap up right now. What the challenge for us is, we're doing this the whole time. All right, it's not like we do one change, we go through it in a week or a month or 2 months, and then we can adopt the next. We're doing this probably countless times each day. Okay, so that's our biggest challenge as leaders. How do we help people? Because they might have resilience, but with all these things laying over it, the resilience is getting worn down and worn down and worn down, and then they start getting anxious. So we've talked about that. This is a question for you that I'm going to pose for you. This is your homework to think about. What challenges do you face as a leader to facilitate the resistance to change, to enable people to adapt positively and increase their resilience? What are the hacks? What are the things that you can do? What are the things that you might already be doing? And then this is just a little bit about reinforcing what we've already talked about around how it all then comes together. Okay? Having a purpose, starting to build those joyful things in there. We like reward. If every time we have this self-talk around, I failed on that, all we're doing is reducing our ability to be resilient. You didn't fail, I learned. What did I learn from this? How did I turn that around to be a positive experience? You know, I'm going to be really proud of myself for actually having that courageous conversation. How do I reward myself for these difficult things? Because that builds your resilience, it builds your confidence, right? Then think about there's some formal and informal learning that you might want to do, and role models, they're part of that broader mentoring. So in summary, formal learning, here's 2 things that I offer for you. First off is your formal change management. And this is the Neuroscience certification that's coming out through APMG. It's 2 days. I'm making an estimate at what I think the cost is based on how APMG structure their funding. My intent is to pass my exam in March and then be able to offer the training from there. And what I want to be able to do is anybody that is interested that over the course of the next 3, 6, 9 months of the year that wants to actually attend this, that I offer a discount for that as well, because it is a new learning and you're not perfect the first time you learn. All right. So therefore you can have a little bit of a discount on me. I can't remember how much information I've got up on my website, but I'm more than happy to send out a brochure as well to explain a little bit more of what you're going to expect in there and the tools that you can use to apply to your own leadership, to your teams, and to when you're actually working on particular change initiatives. And I'll end there.
That's incredible. What an incredible opportunity too for all the women who have registered. I know there's about 12 or 13 women who have registered who are keen and be watching the recording, but feel free to follow up with everyone. You've got all the email addresses as well. So things come up, meetings happen, especially in the world of leadership and change management. I'm also really keen to establish a change huddle, an online group that's a national group. I've got a background in change leadership as well. So this is an area of absolute vital importance, I think, for developing female leaders around the nation to have an opportunity to have a forum online to exchange best practices and ideas. And so 3 or 4 times a year we'll be coming together. So you'll all be invited to participate in that. It will likely be a members only event, so another incentive for you to join, even as a classic connector. I think this whole area of change management is going to not only bring change professionals, but also, you know, leaders, board directors. You know, we really want to be exposing this kind of thinking outside the profession into more of the boardroom and management meetings, and that it becomes a part of a regular agenda item in the same way that other things are, you know, and that's that leadership muscle within the organisation. How do we create a culture of leadership? And I'm really excited about that. It's something I'm very driven to do. So I'd be interested to hear just for those of you who have been able to remain on the call, just pop in the chat box if you're interested in being a part of a national round. It'll be kind of set up like a regular roundtable 3 to 4 times a year, really addressing and sharing these kinds of things. And if you are interested, we'll make sure that Leanne sends you some more information on joining BWA. Thank you so much, Bev. I love this stuff. I've done quite a bit of study in the neuroscience area, and I think Mira has too, from the commentary that she's been sharing. Certainly it's what we've learned about the brain, particularly in the last 10 years with the science and the innovation that we have in tracking and being able to work within the brain. I've also been across some of the AI work that people are doing in the neuroscience and brain surgery area that now psychologists and clinical psychiatrists are utilising. And it has absolute relevance to our roles within organisations as managers and leaders. So let's keep the conversation going. And thank you so much, Bev. You've been a great provocateur of really important reminders, plus opening up some new ideas that we can explore in our roles. So thank you so much. And thanks, ladies, for staying on. You've done very well. We have finished on time. Anyone who wants to hang around and chat, I'm around for another 5 minutes, and then I've got to scoot into another meeting, but we'll be just doing a little debrief and happy to hear your thoughts. So if you want to stay on and have a chat, please do, and take off your mute.